Malcolm Simmons is officially cleared for takeoff for Auburn football, but what role will he play in the offense this coming season? Welcome on into the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. I'm your host, Mike G, and thank you so much for turning us up and turning us on. We'll turn it out. I'm here with my good friend Kyle Rush from the barn to talk a little Auburn football on today's show. We're going to talk about Malcolm Simmons being cleared of all charges and the role that he'll play in the offense this year. And then in the second half of the show, Kyle Rush from the barn is going to give his prediction on Auburn's record. Let's start at the top. Reports dropped on Friday that Malcolm Simmons' legal team was going to enter a plea for a youthful offender status that didn't necessarily admit guilt, but also would seal the record. Over the weekend, the judge reviewed it and came back yesterday, and it was reported by On3 First, I believe, that all charges were dropped.
Yes.
Look, I want to be respectful of whatever potentially happened here, but this is a big win for Auburn football, not having to have this hanging over Malcolm Simmons' head as they continue into fall camp and eventually into week one game prep. Hugh Freeze is going to use a lot of receivers this year. Where do you see Malcolm in the fold? He was a big play guy for them, Kyle, last year. I think that continues this year, but he's got a lot of contenders for that football that Jackson Arnold is going to be putting in the air.
Bro, he's everywhere. They're putting him everywhere, man. They're putting him in the slot. They're putting him outside. They're handing it to him out of the backfield. To me, what that shows is he is going to be a huge focal point. He's going to be a huge part of the offense and how they decide how they're going to try to get the ball in his hands. That is a priority, to figure out how we can get the ball in Malcolm Simmons' hand, because when it gets into his hands, good stuff typically happens. So I'm with you. I think this is big to go ahead and get it out of the way. And his legal team worked really hard to move the date up. Let's go ahead and get this thing. We feel good about the situation. Let's go ahead and move the court date up. Let's get this thing knocked out. So we got, 2 weeks or so where we don't have to, we can kind of let this thing sort of ride itself out, sort of work its way out. And I think that's big for the offense. I think it's big for Malcolm because this is a big year for him.
It is. That initial court date was August 13th, which would have been, as we're recording this, tomorrow. They got it moved up to the 8th, which was Friday, to get that cleared and ready for him to go. He was a 400-ish yard receiver last year. Where do you see him finishing this year in terms of total yardage? As I mentioned, for all these receivers to get the ball the requisite amount of times, Jackson Arnold is going to have to throw for 3,500 yards this season, I think, if they want to get the ball to all these playmakers. But where do you fit Jackson Arnold in there with Cam Coleman and Perry Thompson and now Eric Singleton Jr.?
Yeah, so I think the key word or the key statistic to look for Malcolm is less about total receiving yards and more about all-purpose yards, because I think he's going to be utilized out of the backfield. I think he's going to be utilized in the return game, and obviously the passing game as well. So I don't know that anything around his production from a receiving point last year, or maybe even a little bit more, maybe closer to that 500 or 600 yard mark, would be fantastic. But he may have 100 yards rushing. He may return punts and have several hundred yards in punt returns. Who knows? They could throw him back there on kickoff return. I think it's just that all-purpose yardage number is what is going to be the more intriguing number to watch for Malcolm, because I just think they're going to try so many different ways to get him the ball. Hell, he might throw a pass. I think they tried to get him to throw a pass last year, and it was a disaster. But he may do a little bit of everything. I think he's just that good.
If they utilize him on jet sweeps, we could see some rushing yards there for Malcolm Simmons, as you mentioned. Of just an all-purpose type player out there as a pure athlete, doing pure athlete things. Now, as I mentioned, they've got a lot of guys they need to get the ball to. I'm anticipating that Hugh Freeze is going to run more 10 personnel this year. Kyle, they haven't done it their first 2 years, so pivoting a little bit here. What do you see from Hugh? How creative does this offense get with all these receivers? They've got 2 running backs that they really like. As a matter of fact, I think they got 4 running backs that they really like. But Hugh Freeze has been consistent in saying that they don't feel like they've had the personnel to run their entire offense. I've
Yeah.
asked the question in press conference, is this going to finally look like a Hugh Freeze offense? All 12 personnel is killing me, man. I want to see some zero out there. I want to see
Yeah.
5 receivers on the field. Get them all on the field at the same time. Do we see it? And what percentage of the time do we see it?
It's so funny you said that because Thursday, I think it was last Thursday at practice, we got a little bit of an extended period, and they were actually doing in the 11 on 11 work. They were running out, especially with the first team, a lot of 12 personnel. I was like, oh, Mike G's not going to be happy. But I think for the most part, I think that's less about that's the part of our game plan, and maybe that's the portion that we want to get better at because we can run the multiple receiver sets, the 4 wide receiver sets. And so let's work on some things where we need to get a little bit better. But I'm like you. I think Hugh is, I don't mean this in a negative connotation. He's a system guy. And I think he has to have time to recruit to his system to be able to run it the way that he wants to run. I don't think it really works with training wheels. I don't really think it works with a shrunken playbook. I think it's got to be wide open, running and gunning. And I think this is as close as he will ever have, maybe even better than that Ole Miss offensive roster that, threw for over 4,000 yards, won 10 games, 35 plus touchdowns through the air. I think this is going to be as close of a roster as he'll ever get to that Ole Miss, that really good Ole Miss roster. And I just think now it's just a matter of actually doing it, like actually going out there and improving it, because I just don't think I really don't think you can point to many holes in this roster period, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Maybe running back, but I don't even think when this thing gets going like he wants it to do, I don't think you don't really have to lean on a running back. You don't really have to have a Jarquez Hunter guy out there. So I think it's hard to imagine an offensive roster much better as far as a fit goes for Hugh and what he wants to do than the one he has this year. I may be crazy, but I think that's the case.
I don't think that's crazy at all. I think that's dead on. I think that this is a really good roster for him. It's the type of roster he dreamed of. It's the type of roster Auburn gave him the resources to build. So he built it. A lot of that build is going to be centered around the guy who is delivering the ball to all these receivers we just talked about. That's Jackson Arnold. As I mentioned, for these guys to get their requisite share of the ball, he's going to have to throw for a ton of yards. I'm talking about 250, 300, 350, 350 yard games at times, at least. Auburn's going to have to sling the football around with Jackson Arnold. He's received some criticism from some in camp for being a little bit inconsistent. Where do you see Jackson Arnold going into the season? Is he ready to do this, man? Like, is he ready for what's going to be on his shoulders? Because right now, from where I'm sitting, Hugh Freeze's tenure at Auburn is potentially riding on Jackson Arnold's shoulders.
I don't think that's an outlandish statement. I think it is 100% riding on Jackson Arnold's right arm for the most part. So look, he has been up and down as expected. I'm sure there's got to be some scar tissue that's worked out. There's had to be some stuff that's, maybe some carryover from Oklahoma that you just got to get confidence. You got to get your confidence back. You got to get confidence. Hey, you sacked like 34 times last year. You got to understand, hey, maybe I do have that extra half second, or maybe I got time to see this receiver come open. There's going to be some ups and downs in this early fall camp, because another thing is you're doing in fall camp that you're not doing when you're prepping for another team is you're not game planning for your own defense. You're not out there saying, okay, let's pick on DeMarcus Riddick right here, or let's try to get a one-on. Like, you're not game planning for your own defense's tendencies. That would just take too much time. And then what if those tendencies of our defense are not what you really need to be working at to be an elite offense? I think about like in 2016, that Gus Malzahn team that went on that streak where they were just pounding it down people's throats. And the whole time I'm sitting there thinking, is this fool's gold? Okay. Are we getting better here? Because is that really what's going to get us to the next level to be able to beat the Georgia, beat the Alabama on your schedule. And like, if you're just going based off of game planning your own defense, are you really capitalizing on the time that you have to refine your weaknesses? If we're struggling running the ball, why would you not want to try to do what you can to figure out how you can run the ball? You got to be able to run the ball some again in the SEC to be able to make your offense work. You got to be able to have the drop back passing game. It can't just be all RPO. So I understand whenever I see that he had a bad practice, a bad scrimmage, I understand that it's not the end of the world, because then he'll turn around in the last 2 practices. He's had great scrimmages. He had a great practice that I watched on Thursday. So I know there's ups and downs, but I think that's probably par for the course when it comes to these, especially the early part of fall camp. And I think this scrimmage on Saturday is going to tell a lot too. I think there's probably going to be people overreacting about it. He could have a really great scrimmage. He could have an average. I don't think it matters. It's hard to imagine how you cannot get it done with this wide receiver room. It's hard to imagine you cannot get it done with this offensive line in front of you. You just got to go make it happen. And I think there's going to be some bumps and bruises throughout this camp, but ultimately when you start actually game planning for the opponent, it's a completely different ballgame. And we're almost there, Mike.
We are almost there. Look, this is a really good defense to stress test your quarterback against. So Jackson Arnold getting the stress test here in fall camp. Safe to say maybe he's not telling DJ Durkin to take it easy on him anymore here as we get closer to game 1. But look, all this has got to result in wins and losses, and we're going to go over our season predictions here. We're going to hear from Kyle Rush, exclusive here on the Auburn Express, what he thinks about where Auburn's going to finish record-wise. We'll be back right after a quick word from our sponsors. This episode of the Auburn Express is brought to you by our friends at the Vibe Vault. You can find them at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Suite E in Phoenix City, Alabama. That's right across the street from the Chattahoochee Valley Community College, next to Renfro's Supermarket and Marco's Pizza. The Vibe Vault. If you're in the Columbus, Phoenix City area and you're looking to get fresh for the weekend, get fresh for the weekend with the Vibe Vault. Not just barbers, lifestyle consultants. This episode of the War Report is brought to you by our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com. Use code REPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. And our friends at Golden's Cast Iron. Visit goldenscastiron.com/WR. Use code Get Your Weight Up for 15% off your weights and code TWR for $65 off. Fire pits and Kamado grills. The summer's here. You should be outside grilling or just staying in shape with some Golden's Cast Iron weights. Work out, grill out, chill out with Golden's Cast Iron. Also want to thank our friends at SetsForSociety.ai. They have custom personality assessments that let you know more about how you think, how you relate to your coworkers, your partners, and how they can relate to you. Want to know more about yourself? Visit SetsForSociety.ai today to get your custom personality assessment started today. Sets for Society, get to know yourself. Kyle, look, it's prediction time. Everybody's got to lock in their prediction for where Auburn is going to finish. I went on there was a clip from SEC Unfiltered that was circulating with me saying, look, man, I think 7 wins is unacceptable with this roster and with this schedule. I don't care how you get there. I don't like the talk of 7 wins being acceptable in year 3. But my official prediction for Auburn is 9-3. The boat is high on my side. I think they get out of that first 6-game stretch 4-2. I've gone back and forth between 3-3 and 4-2. I really believe in my heart they take care of Baylor and they get one of those first 3 SEC games. Pick one.
Yeah.
A lot of Auburn fans feel like Georgia is no longer the threat that they once were. But I've got that as a possible L. I think they'll get one of the first 2 on the road versus Oklahoma or Texas A&M. And then I can't stress enough, man, I think they cleaned that 5-game stretch after the Georgia game. Missouri, Arkansas, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Mercer.
Yeah.
Holy crap, man. You got to win those 5, and you go into the Iron Bowl with a chance to win 10, and possibly a spot in the college football playoff. It sounds like a huge jump, but this is always where they were supposed to be in year 3.
Yep.
So they had better talent than their 5-7 record last year. Say what you want about Peyton Thorne. At times they had the second best running back in the league. They had a top 4 wide receiver in Keandre Lambert-Smith in the league. They had talent.
Sure.
So Auburn, if they have McPherson, probably is a 7-5 team last year.
Yep. There's a couple of like you said, a couple of plays here or there, and I feel like they're way closer to 7 or 8 wins than they were their actual record.
Yeah, absolutely.
That makes sense.
Well, talk to me, man. What do you think here? Where does Auburn finish and why, my friend?
Look, I thought about this, and I want to be, I wanted to be conservative here. So I think conservatively, I'm going to go 16-0. I'm kidding. I like the 9-3 number. I think that is a really, really good number. Now, the problem is I can't really make up my mind where the 3 come, but I do feel like there's probably going to be at least 3. I don't want to say at least. I think there's going to be 3 losses somewhere on the schedule. I can see a scenario where maybe you get blanked on the road early at Oklahoma and at Texas A&M, and then lose one of Georgia and Alabama, and you win the rest.
Yeah.
Just the more I see this schedule, man, it's like you have to almost have a repeat of bad luck from last year to not win 7 games. I mean, you got that 5-game stretch right there that we talked about. You're going to be more talented than every team you play, significantly more talented than every team you play. And then you got the 2 right to start off with, Ball State and South Alabama. You beat Baylor, that's 8 right there. Then you just have to win one of Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Georgia, or Alabama to get to 9. So I can't really decide exactly where the 3 are going to come from, but I like 9-3. I think, honestly, I don't even care if you go 8-4 and one of the 8 is against Georgia or Alabama. I almost will be disappointed with anything less than 9. I think anything less than 9, 8 would be discouraging because that means you lost a game that you had no business losing, in my opinion. Or I take that back. You lost every game that mattered. If you win 8 games, that means you lost every game really that mattered, because you're probably lost your 2 road games and then your 2 rivalry games.
Yeah, that's true. True. At 8-4, you probably, you're right. You likely lost every game that mattered. This is the first time I've heard that take, but I agree.
So I'm thinking 9-3, and I don't really know where the 3 come from, but I think if you get 9-3, regardless of who the 3 losses are to, you'd love to not lose both of the rivalry games at home. But if you could trade that out with a couple of wins on the road against Texas A&M or Oklahoma, I think, and then obviously win Baylor to open the year, I think people would still, for the most part, see that as a big step forward. I mean, because you're looking at being 5-3 in the league. That's a huge jump, and that puts you 9-3. And if you could be what would it be? You'd be 9-2 going into the Iron Bowl. That'd be electric. I think that'd be a huge playing for that 10th win, and maybe even a playoff spot. I think that's where everybody wants to be.
And possibly a chance to deny Alabama a playoff spot in the same breath would be one of the biggest Iron Bowls we've had in the last decade. So I've got them going 9-3. You've got them going 9-3. Let's go. I hope that I'm right, because it means that you're right. We don't care how we get there. Just win 9. Look, the 9-3 certainly will take Hugh Freeze off any potential hot seat talk headed into next year.
Sure.
And for what it's worth, I want to see him see these recruiting classes through, man. I want him to prove that he can do it with his recruits, or he can't do it before Auburn decides that they want to move on. But hey, look, let us know what you think in the comments after the video. Where does Auburn finish with their win-loss record? Drop your prediction below. Guys, that's it for another great edition of the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. If you want more content like this, do us a favor. hit that comment section and smash that super thanks button. Your financial support helps keep the work that we're doing here going. Please hit like and subscribe. We are the War Report on every social media platform. TW Report on TikTok. We're signing off, and as always, we're